Welcome to the Author's Porch, where every good conversation happens. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride from author to author. We want to give you an experience where you learn and enjoy the conversation. Authors tell you about their journey, you learn about new books, and at the end of the day, you go home with a smile on your face because the Author's Porch is a beacon of light, bringing you home to the family you never knew you had. We hope that you enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Author's Porch, where every great conversation happens. And it happens because we trusted Brendan and Vamsi at Master Talk to show us the power of effective communication. We also make sure we have a great cup of coffee from Third Day Coffee Seguin, a Christ-centered, veteran-owned coffee company. Today on the show, we have Patricia Bates. How are you doing, Patricia?
I am doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I am excited to talk to you because when I was reading your bio and I heard dark edgy, I was like, "Ooh, this is going to get really interesting." So, guys, I want I want to take a few minutes to get to introduce you. Sorry, I just got like a poke of something in my eye. I was like, really awkward. Thank you. So I want to introduce the Patricia to you guys because I've been getting to know a little bit about her myself, and we're going to get really in the weeds and learn a whole lot about these dark, edgy books. So, guys, Patricia is a Canadian author, and she writes dark, edgy, historical, contemporary, suspense romances. Like, I'm all up in here about to learn some fantastic things. And she believes that this is what really got me. And I think this is one of those quotes that you remember for a lifetime. She says, "To bleed is to survive, but it's by loving that we truly live." Like,
Yes.
that's something that you remember for a lifetime. Like, is that your direct quote?
That is my direct quote, yes.
That's
Yep.
epic. That's
Yep.
truly epic. So, guys, Patricia lives in Canada with her husband, son, and fur babies. And when she's not writing, she loves to travel, crochet, and read. But
Yep.
so let me ask you a question because I know being north of the border here in Canada, you guys haven't been able to travel very often, have you? Or are you open back up?
We are sort of open in that there are countries we can go to, but we usually have a travel mandate. And to travel, you have to be double vaxxed with at least with one booster, which
Yeah.
means 3 jabs. Now, when I say travel, my husband and I, when we first got together, this was 20 some odd years ago, we decided that we were going to explore Canada first. And it is such a huge country that's probably going to take most of our lives.
Yeah.
So we've been over most of Western Canada. We've been all over the Yukon, up to the top of the World Highway, which is up past Dawson City. We've been all over BC. We've been over parts of Alberta, and we're in Saskatchewan. So we're exploring Saskatchewan, Manitoba. We actually have. Right by where we live or close to where we live, we actually have the world's largest swing. So
Oh my gosh, I'm in. I want to come visit.
it's awesome. It's awesome.
So, has the pandemic affected your writing and maybe some of your characters? Do you think that any of your characters your writing has changed because of some of the inability to explore as much as you normally would?
I think it's impacted my ability to write in the sense where you get tireder a lot faster because you're just
Yeah.
constantly bombarded by everything. But I'm a good one for picking up books. When I say I'm a reader, I mean I'm an avid reader. I probably read 3 books a week, and it's not just fiction that I'm reading. I read nonfiction. I read research material. I've actually got 3 books that I'm working on right now that I'm taking notes from, that are all on Scottish history,
Oh.
and ancient Roman history as well. And so I really think that I am actually getting a chance to explore the world from my armchair, honestly. It's a very cost-effective method.
Right? I like that. I like that. Everybody, cost-effective method of traveling. Read a good book.
Yes. It is. It is. I mean, I have been to Rome, I've been to Neapolis, I have been to Pompeii, I have been to France, to Louis the to I've been to Ireland, ancient Ireland. I've been to Norway. I've been everywhere. Just from my armchair, as opposed to, paying out a lot of money to travel there. I mean, I still have places that I want to go on my bucket list,
Yeah.
but for the most part, and I'm an avid follower of several travel shows as well. So if I do watch them, and most of them are on YouTube, and it's really nice because you're not seeing the touristy spots. You're actually seeing spots that people go to on a daily basis, whether it's temples or, restaurants, and you're really kind of getting a behind the scenes glimpse of what is there, as opposed to just sticking to the travel areas.
Yeah. And the best thing about reading about these places is if you have a good author, a good and a great author, you're going to actually experience these
Yeah.
places. The words on those pages will incite emotions and feelings inside you that you never realized that you could experience just from reading. And I love that about the author world.
Yeah.
It's,
I think that's the most fun part of it is you
yeah.
get to go to places that others don't necessarily get to see, especially if you're reading, or you're reading a book that isn't modern society, or you're reading an alien romance or a
Mhm.
paranormal romance or something with magic in it. It just sucks you in. It's like having your own, 3D movie theater in your mind, honestly.
Yeah. And you like the historical side of your books, right?
Yeah.
So, what is it about the historical side that gets you, and what element of that do you pull into your books?
I think it's just the differences in the culture, in the way that things were organized. Certain cultures historically um, kind of take what we take for granted and throw it on its ear. The ancient Celtic societies, for example, in my
Mm.
research, um, a lot of them were matriarchal, as opposed to the typical, you have a king, and it wasn't just, oh, well, you're of my line, so therefore you're entitled. And I think that was part of it, and just looking at how they made do with so much less than what we have nowadays. The
Mm.
clothes don't hurt either. I mean, some of the times and periods of history had some of the most beautiful clothing out there. Oh my goodness. Um, Food was amazing. A lot of the time, their food was, because they had to make do with what they had. So the
Yeah.
food was just, oh. Um,
They had
so if you
amazing feasts.
Yes,
Feasts.
yes, they did. The feasts that they had were absolutely. I remember when I was writing the Viscount's Prize. It's a Regency um, suspense-ish type spicy romance,
Mm.
set during the Hundred-Year War between France and Poland and Persia and that. And I was actually reading up, and I was doing my research on that. And it was really interesting because most of the time, these feasts that they were serving, they weren't hot because the kitchen was a mile away from where they were serving the dishes. so,
Wow.
so a lot of the time they were delivering food that was cold. So, it's very interesting. The historical aspects of it are very interesting, and how it was perceived, when you went to a royal feast, for example, if the king was done, you were done, even if you still had half a bowl of soup. If he was done, you were done. Everybody was done. Um, so it was really interesting. And certain kings had more, or royalty. I'm not just kings, but queens too, had more of a love affair with food. So their feasts were a little bit more lavish. They would have more courses, and they would, it was just amazing at what they would be putting out and what they could do with certain foods. Like, I mean, at one point in history, they were actually making bacon out of sugar and making it look like bacon. And it's just amazing what they were
Wow.
able to do. So and I pull a lot of that into my stories, and I don't necessarily always go for the light, fluffy, rose-colored glimpse of history.
Yeah.
I tend to be one of these authors who likes to inject realism. And
Mm.
I love to read it in what I'm reading as well.
Yeah.
Um, so I like a little realism with my history as well. Whether that means that, if you've got a character that's a courtesan, she didn't have a choice. She doesn't have a choice in who she beds. She doesn't have a choice on who her lovers are. They're decided by the queen or the king or her father. So I kind of try and bring that in, and I know that in today's society, it's really kind of walking a fine line because we are so focused on consent and
Yes.
rights, But I think to be true to history and
Yeah.
to the time period, you do have to acknowledge that at certain times in history, women may not have had rights. I mean, there was there's times in history, there's instances of women who were in arranged marriages. They never met the groom until the wedding day, and sometimes they refused, and their fathers would lock them in their room and starve them until they said yes, that they would agree to marry. So it's
Yeah.
really it's a fine line, and I hope that I do it justice when I'm writing, but because I do try to focus on the realism, but give it a little bit of a modern twist as well. So
Yeah, I think it's really important to be true to history. And the reason is if we try to hide what happened in history, you're doomed to repeat the
yes,
cycle. That comes up in so many different aspects. A lot of people want to say, let's not talk about the bad things that happened in the past. Well, you need to be aware of them. You don't
yeah,
need to glorify them, but you need to be aware so that
yes.
they don't become a repeat. If so, I think I commend you for bringing those aspects up, because when you try to not talk about them, that's when they get repeated. Because yeah. So, anyways, I won't beat a dead horse. So, so so is that, do you consider that the dark edgy part of your
I
your
do.
work?
I also I have a book that I wrote last year. I put it out last year. And I have a critique partner. Hey, Carolyn, who read it, and we were going through it, and she's awesome. She does she we don't critique, we edit. We do developmental, we do acquisitions, content line, all of that. That's what we do. We literally take it down to the bare bones and then build it back up. Um, and she was reading through it, and she's not typically a historical reader. I'm just going to say that up front. She is not. She's admitted that. But we were doing a scene, and there was a scene we were working on, and she's reading through it, and it's getting quieter and quieter and quieter. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, let's. And she's like, just her reaction once she actually got into the scene and actually seen what I was doing and how the character was handling things, she's like, no, no. And then she's like, no. And I'm like, yes, yes. um, because I didn't, it's graphic, but it's not like, uh, it's not over the top. I didn't embellish. I don't, I don't, give it go too deep with it. I try to focus on how the character is perceiving the situation.
Yeah.
So that the reader is the character. I don't write shallow. I write deep point of view. So when you pick up a book of mine, you are the character. You are
Mm.
experiencing what they are experiencing. You're feeling, thinking, seeing, smelling. You're living as them. You're experiencing their life. Is how I try to do it. So to get that kind of a reaction out of her was absolutely amazing. Because again, it's not her genre that she normally reads, and she still says it's probably one of her most favorite books that she's ever read. So I'm really happy about that.
Wow, that's great. I love that when you see someone have that type of reaction with your book, it's like the aha moment. Like
Yeah.
I'm getting what I set out to do. Like
Yes.
I'm it's translating the way that you wanted it to. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
when you were growing up, did did you always enjoy the historical aspects? Has this been something like a love affair from the beginning, or was it something you grew into?
No, this is something that I was interested in from a very young age. I grew up with my grandparents, and of course, so I was exposed to books to authors like Louis L'Amour, and movies with John Wayne, and and it really it was so interesting for me to see see the cowboys on their horses, and to really see the gowns. Like I think I was maybe 9 when I saw Gone with the Wind for the first time,
Oh,
and
it's still in my heart.
it was just it was just this overwhelming, oh my god, I need to know more. And then that was the end of it. I've been hooked ever since, and I'm not. Um, I love history. I'm not a huge fan of modern history in the sense of we're talking, um, 20th century. We're talking, more of the 18, Civil War and earlier into like ancient Rome, ancient Greece, Egypt, a lot of the earlier cultures.
Yes.
There's just something so fascinating about them, to
Yeah.
learn the different aspects, and the different cultural nuances that are there that we maybe don't look at, or they're so minute that you don't necessarily think of them when you're thinking of a culture. Um, and for me, that's huge. I want to know all the details. I want to get the nitty gritty. I want to, I want to know what they ate. I want to know, I want to know how they did their hair. I want to know, what the social structure was like, what the clothes were like, um, what their lifestyle was like, because it's so different from what we experience today.
Yeah, it's so raw as well. So I want to just take a moment. You have some audience members here sharing in this conversation, so I want to acknowledge them and let you know they're here to support you. So you have Tammy Cirillo. She says, "Awesome job in writing." We also have some show regulars, Paul Landry from Playtime Multimedia and Publishing. He says, very interesting. He's watching. And we also have the marketing director over at Playtime Multimedia and Publishing, Elizabeth Johnson. They're regulars here. They watch mostly all of our episodes, watching the authors, and they love getting involved. She's watching, says, good afternoon. They like watching and just supporting authors, everything the authors do on our show. So thank you for being here with us, guys. We have some other folks watching. They're being a little quiet and shy in the background. That's okay because a lot of people just like to watch the show. So when you're writing, um, do you ever think about your time before you ever wrote books? Do you ever think about the time before you ever picked up that first pen and your life before being an author and what it was like before you ever wrote your first book? And what was that like? What was it like before you became an author?
Um, well, I'll be honest with you. Um, I've been writing since grade school.
Oh,
My sister
wow.
was 16 months older than I am. She went to school first. She come home with these beautiful books. They're the red book, the blue book, the green book, and I might be dating myself. And if I am, no, well, I'm dating. But and these books were all about Sally has a red ball, and Johnny walked down the street. Very simplistic books. And as I said, I grew up with the influence of Nora Roberts and Louis L'Amour and Janet Daly and those sorts of authors that were in the house. And my sister was brought these books home, and I'm like, I want to learn how to read. I need to learn how to read so that I can be like my sister. And so my grandma said, okay, well, that's fine. We'll get you started on learning how to read. And then um, so we started on those ones, and then we graduated to a little bit more of the Louis L'Amour and the Janet Daly and the Nora Roberts,
Yeah.
and so by the time I actually got to school, I had kind of mastered the reading.
Mm.
So grade 1 came along, and we started doing the learning how to print and the learning how to write and those sorts of things. And I had a really amazing teacher in grade 2 who loved the idea of being creative. She was very much one of these, well, if you're going to learn how to write, you need to learn how to write properly, and we want you to learn how to write sentence structure, the old fashioned read, write, and arithmetic kind of mentality. And so she's like, she's like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. And then I remember having a conversation with her, and it was so funny because I said to her, I says, this is really boring. I want to do more. And I just remember my sister looking at me going, shh, you don't say that. Because at the time we were in the same classroom. And I'm like, well, no, because I already know this. I'd already been doing it at home because my sister, again, was older than me. She'd already started bringing this home. I'd already started learning this.
Yeah.
So the teacher's like, well, why don't we start giving you some of the stuff that's in a little bit older grades? So by the time I hit grade 3, 3.5, middle of grade 3, early grade 4, I was doing poetry and short
Wow.
stories. So I don't really remember a time before I wasn't writing. Um, Now, if you mean professionally, I didn't actually start writing with the mindset of doing writing for publication until probably my son was 4, which would have been 2006. I sat down and I started writing my first book, and someone had said to me, well, I really like this book. Why don't you see if you can get it published? So that's what I did. As I figured, well, I'm going to give it a shot. And so I sent it out to the publishers, and I got a contract offer from Champagne Books. And so
Wow.
I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm reading it over, and I'm like super excited and everything. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. And that was kind of the catalyst to jumping feet first into the deep end of the publishing industry. And uh, that was my first book, which was Master's Mistress, which is Celtic and Viking romance, 8th century Ireland. Um, and I haven't looked back. It's been a heck of a ride. I'll be honest with you, it's been a wild ride, but I haven't looked back since then. It's just been crazy. It's been, but a lot of fun, but crazy, and a lot of work, a lot of behind the scenes stuff. There's a lot of things that I didn't know. A lot of things that I kind of had to muddle my way through and learn on the go.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's part of the journey. That's part of the excitement of being a writer is learning the differences in what you need to do to get to your end goal.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As a writer, people think you just write a book and you make millions of dollars and you sit back and then you'll write another one, and it's just all, making up things in your mind, and it's super easy, and you're like, "Oh, I wish."
Yes. Yeah, it
So,
is.
are all your books romance, or do you have other genres that you write in?
Oh, I have, I would say probably 95% of my books are romance. I write under 2 different pen names as well as Patricia Bates, and I write paranormal romance. I write LGBTQ romance, romantic suspense, and then I get into a little bit more of the dark paranormal romantic suspense LGBTQ stuff. And then I do historical fiction. I've got just released late last year the Gladiators Promise, which is historical fiction with romantic elements. It is not a romance; it is romantic elements, but it is definitely not romance.
Oh my gosh, I love a gladiator book. I mean, just gladiators in general, like that's my jam. Give
Oh,
me. Mm. Can you tell us a little bit about those books?
so I started off with Chains of Rome, and Chains of Rome is the story of Solaria and Tritus. And Solaria starts off the book as this kind of opinionated, strong-willed, iron of like ironclad, backboned house slave to Achillea, who is the dominant of the house, the mistress of the house. And Celeria has a reputation as being cursed or touched by Discordia, or the goddess of chaos, because she was born under a lunar eclipse during a storm, and she's got dark hair and light blue eyes, and she's skilled in medicines and those sorts of things. And so she's kind of got this bit of a reputation as being, you don't want to mess with her because she'll curse you.
Mm.
But she's still a slave, and as a slave she has no voice, she has no rights, and her domina despises her. I mean, Achillea would just love to just get rid of her, but she can't. She's actually bound to own Solaria for life, because that was the condition that was given when they were both little girls. And Solaria was given to Achillea as a child. They were the same age, but one came from a Roman background and one came from a slave's background. And so what winds up happening, Solaria does exactly what she's told to do. Achillea has a baby, and Achillea is like, you need to get rid of it. I don't want it in this house. My husband's not here. And in ancient Rome, they did not abandoning children was a common occurrence, for one, and for two, it was up to the family, the father of the family, to decide whether they were going to keep the child or not. He wasn't there, so she's like, yeah, get rid of it. I don't want it. I do not want to be a mother. So Solaria takes it to a temple and gifts it to this other woman, who is very appreciative of getting this child, but she's late getting back to the villa. She doesn't make it back in time not to get caught by the soldiers, because there's an auction happening. And Achillea is absolutely furious, because Solaria has basically, even though she has done what was commanded, she's humiliated Achillea. So she orders her punished, and ultimately what winds up happening is Solaria finds herself in amongst a bunch of trainee gladiators. These are men that were bought at the auction for the sole purpose of being turned into gladiators, because Achillea's husband wants to dabble in the arts of the gladiators and that sort of thing. And so for her, it was a case of, she has to figure out how to protect herself. And so she starts watching the men practice and train. And she forms a relationship with Tritus, who is a captured chieftain who was taken from the field of battle, and he's brought in. And it's a very symbiotic relationship, because he needs her to train him how to live as a slave to survive, because otherwise he's going to wind up dead very, very quickly, because he doesn't know when to shut his mouth. And she needs him to keep her safe while she heals from the beating that she got, and to help train her to protect herself, to defend herself. Achillea comes up with this great idea. Her husband Lycius decides he's buys this great estate down in Pompeii, so they're going to move, and he's going to become a lanista, and he's going to do all this wonderful things. So he decides that they're going to have this display of, bloodshed, and Achillea decides, well, let's stick Solaria in, and we'll pit her against a trained gladiator that has met the challenge and passed and done all these good, and is an actual gladiator. We'll pit a house slave against a gladiator. It backfires on her incredibly badly, because what winds up happening is Achillea wins. She beats the gladiator. She breaks his arm. And I didn't realize when I was doing the research for this, but if you know what you're doing, you only need 11 pounds of pressure to break a bone.
Wow.
So yeah, she defeats this gladiator, which ultimately sets her on a path to becoming a gladiator herself. She becomes a gladiatrix. And Lycius sees in her this woman who is going to make him a killing, a fortune in the arena. Because here she is, she's beaten the gladiator. And normally in ancient Rome, gladiatrix did not fight men. They did not fight men. They fought other women, they fought beasts, but they didn't fight men. Right. But he kind of breaks the rules a little bit and throws her in to fight against other men. And she takes it all in stride. She's like, yeah, no, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to win. Then she learns this little secret that potentially has the power to change absolutely everything. everything. And I am not going to give away the secret. If you want to know, you're
Oh,
going to
I
have
was waiting for it. I was like, oh, here we go. I'm sitting here like, oh, it's about to go down.
Um, yes, yeah. Well, no, you got to grab the book. You got to get the book. Um,
Yeah.
but it is, and this secret has the power to destroy certain people in the book, and instead of using it to do what she could do, Solaria takes the high road. She's like, no, 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 no. I know how I'm going to get my freedom. I'm going to be free. I'm going to be out of this. And what winds up happening is she is told that her lover Tritus is killed. Um, and so she's devastated. So she has no hope of getting out any other way. So she goes into this. She goes and she uses the information that she has to create a little bit of unrest. And then she goes into the idea of, I'm going to go out on the sands and I'm going to fight only as hard as it takes for them to kill me. I'm going to be free. And so she's got this game plan. So she's sitting in the bottom of the amphitheater. She's sitting awaiting her turn in the arena, and the door opens, and this guard comes in. Well, it's not a guard. It's her. It's Tritus. Tritus comes in, and he's like, "We're going to get you out of here. We're going to be free. I have secured a way of escaping from Pompeii." And then that's what they do. They wind up ultimately escaping, but not before she uses the knowledge that she has to put the fear of the gods in certain people. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It is one of those books that it will grab you by the throat and shake you. And yeah, you will remember it long after the last page is turned. And so that's Chains of Rome. The other one, Gladiators Promise, which came out in October, is a novella in the same series, and it features Arya. Arya is she is a slave in the same household as Solaria was, but she was a household slave, which was made into Achillea's body slave after Solaria went to the Ludus, which is a school for gladiators, and she ultimately Arya is broken in a lot of ways. She's suffered a great deal. She's very broken. And in Gladiators Promise, Lycius is trying to gain favor to actually be able to attend the games in Rome themselves, not in the smaller areas, which was a rarity, because going to Rome, that's a very expensive, very long, drawn out process. So he's trying to build up credibility to actually get to Rome to have his gladiators compete on the main sands in the main Colosseum. And so he reaches out to another Lanista who's in Herculaneum, and what winds up happening, so Lycius is gone from the villa when Keller, who is the hero in Gladiators Promise, shows up. And Keller is he's not a Roman in the sense that he's not Roman born. He's actually a freedman. He was a gladiator who earned his right to freedom. He impressed a high-powered Roman senator, and so he wound up winning his freedom. And he has spent most of his adult life fighting in the arena with one thought in mind, that he is going to get back the girl who he loved when they were children. Well, we would call them children because they were 12 and 11 and 12. So he's got this mindset that he's going to get her back. And so this is what he's doing. He's doing everything he can to find her, to return her to him, because he's always held her in his heart. That's who he's fought for all this time. Well, when he goes to Lycius and Achillea's villa, to their residence in Pompeii, lo and behold, the woman that he's been searching for all this time is there. And so he makes it a condition of Lycius's gladiators being in a match with his, that no, if you want this match, this woman is coming back with me. So Achillea agrees to it, of course. And so Arya leaves, and she comes back to an environment that is completely different than what she's used to. She goes from having no voice to suddenly having a voice, to having choices, to being free in the sense, but it's really hard for her to wrap her mind around it, and really hard for her to trust Keller, because she doesn't trust men as a whole, because of all of her experiences. And so what winds up happening is, Keller is very patient with her, and he's very encouraging, and he's very warm, and he's an alpha without being an a-hole.
Is
And
that possible?
I think so. I hope so. He um he manages to convince her that she can be free, she can make her own choices, and ultimately what winds up happening is she becomes the dominant of the house. She becomes his equal, and their relationship progresses. And ultimately, she really knocks Lycius and Achille on their backsides, because they show up, and Lycius is demanding her return, because in his eyes she's a tool to be used. Like, that's who he would send to other influential Romans to seduce, to get backing, to get financial, monies or whatever, right? Or privileges. So in his mind, this is a tool that he needs to continue on with that. And so when he shows up, and he's like, yeah, no, you don't belong in these fancy robes, you belong in the slave dress, and so on and so forth. And she stands up to him, and it's just like the story is about her coming into herself, coming into her empowering herself, as opposed to just staying that meek, mild, oh my god, I have knocked over a lamp and spilled 3 drops of oil, so therefore I am going to be punished. So it was both of them are a lot of fun. I am working on a third book, which is Seduced by Her Enemy, and I'm hoping to have that out at some point this year. But I'm also got a couple of other projects on the go, which are a little bit different than the ancient Roman ones.
Very interesting. Wow. So you've got your hands busy.
I try to.
Yeah, your hands and your typewriter.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I say typewriter, I'm dating myself now. So keyboard, okay, keyboard. So I just embarrassed myself a little bit, but I did practice on a typewriter when I was learning how to type, but that's
Uh-huh.
okay.
Yeah.
So if you, but that's amazing. Like whenever you can get books to intertwine like that, you can have a series. I mean, that's where you get your readers, and I think that's what authors, standalone books are great. I have all my books are standalone because I knew that they had other parts to them later.
Yeah.
So when you can get the other parts to them, because I'm telling you, like I will find a book just like a TV series, and when I know that there's more than one, I'm on it. But if it's just one, I'll go, I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to definitely grab those ones with parts. So if you could give, because you're a seasoned writer, you've wrote books in different genres as well as multiple books in one genre. So you've been there, you've done that, you've went around the world in a day. But if you had any advice to give to other authors who they want to make their dream come true as well, they have these ideas, and maybe since they were young like you, they've been writing, or maybe it wasn't until they were older like me that they was able to actually bring their dream to fruition. What advice would you give them to let them know that they can do it, that don't let your dream fall by the wayside?
I would say find your passion, find your lane. What do you love to write? Write it. Find your niche, find your lane, write it. Don't look, when you start writing, don't look at it as a hobby, approach it as a business.
Mm,
Um, Look at it that way. You are investing in yourself, in your own creativity. Feed that creativity, write, follow that dream, because that dream is going to take you so many places. Do not give up. Do not listen to the naysayers. Do not listen to the ones that are telling you, oh, well, you shouldn't do this because you're too young, you're too old, you work full time, you work part time, whatever it is. Ignore the naysayers, feed that creativity,
yeah.
sit down, butt in the chair, and just write. That would be my best best advice.
Yeah, I interviewed a lady one time, and when she told me her age, I almost fell on the floor. I couldn't believe it. She was in her 80s, and I was
Mhm.
like, "There's no way." I mean, one, she didn't look. There was no, she didn't even look. But then I thought she just published a book. Like she's still going strong.
Yeah.
Like I want to be her when I grow up. I want to
Yes.
know
Yeah.
that you don't have, there's nothing that's going to stop you, whether you're young or you're older, seasoned, unseasoned, no matter what, if you have that passion. So I love that advice that you gave,
Yeah.
because it's one of the rawest and truest pieces of advice that you
It
could
is.
give somebody.
And I've seen a lot of authors come in, they write a book, they don't make $1 million, they get discouraged and they walk away. And that's that other piece, right? Feel that creativity, but also look at it as a business.
Yeah.
And knowing that you're looking at it as a business will help you figure out where you need to go, what you need to do,
Mm-hmm.
because it's also going to help you look past the discouragement, the not, maybe that first book doesn't sell very, very well. Um, I attended a conference, a digital conference last winter. Well, I guess it would be this winter because it would have been November, just November, I believe it was. And one of the presenters that I was listening to, she's like, I didn't make enough off of my books to be able to support myself to live, to be able to, go to conferences and have a nice house and be able to pay off my car until I had 40 books out. Don't write one, see it as a negative when you're not hitting that bestseller list. You know what? Write the next one and the next one and the next one, because the more you write, it's the better you're going to be, because guess what? That's your back library, and your back library is going to be your biggest investment. That's where most authors make their money.
Yep.
Yeah.
So true. So true. Where can people reach you if they want to book you or read one of your books or just say hi?
Well, I am on Facebook. I am also on Instagram, and I'm on TikTok. Yes, I am on TikTok.
I think we all have to be. So I'm
Yeah.
always doing I was a potato the other day. I did a video. I was like, I'm a potato. Yeah, it's embarrassing, but I totally did it. I was like, why not? Let me try this.
Yeah, you got to have fun with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I am on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. TikTok and Instagram, my handle is at Patricia Bates, romance author or author. You can also find me on my website, www.patriciabates.com, and I have my link tree up there, so you can find me on all of my social media, including my podcasts, my YouTube channel. And if you would like me to come speak or do any of that, I am available. Just shoot me an email at patriciabatesauthor@gmail.com. It's all one word. It's Patricia Bates, Bates, just like the motel, author@gmail.com. And yeah, I'm around. I also do. I have a Facebook group called Serious Writers Haven. So anyone who's interested, come join that group. We are all like-minded authors and individuals who are serious about the craft, serious about learning everything we can. We do roundtables, which are it's a live event once a week, and basically what we do is we sit down, we have a conversation, we do a presentation on different things. We have guests. We had Ryan and Terry from Plotter the other day. We've got Dave Chesson coming up this month. We've had Trisha Crouch, which is Alessandra Torres' personal PA.
Wow.
So we have a lot of really cool people that come in. We also have me, and I do the presentations and share my font of information that I have, my resources, some of what I've learned throughout the years. Because I've been doing this for a number of years, and yeah, it's open to all genres. It's open to all skill levels. come out and have some fun. Check out the round tables. We actually just had before Christmas. We had a lady who is a marketing specialist come in and do a 2-hour presentation and Q&A, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Tons of fun. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. And I've also included your links in the comments here on Facebook and YouTube. But for the podcast folks, tomorrow when I get this up, I want to make sure that they can hear it and maybe write it down. So this is the part where we turn it into the Patricia Bates show. So anything that we wasn't able to cover in the time that we've talked, I'm going to take myself off screen and put you wide on the screen here so everybody can see you. Not that we're making you nervous or anything. No, I'm just joking. And give you the opportunity to talk directly to your audience and to the fans out there who want to talk to you and only you, so you can share some information with them. So I'm going to turn it over to you, give you those 2 minutes so that you can share anything that you want to that we weren't able to talk about. Okay, I'll see you in a couple minutes,
Oh,
Patricia.
sounds good. Well, first of all, thank you everybody who has come out today. I am so glad to see you guys here. You'll have to forgive me. I am blind as a bat without my glasses. So I see that there is some comments. I'm going to put my glasses back on. So please forgive the ring light reflection in them. I need to be able to read. um, Yeah, so I am a dark historical romance author, dark historical fiction. I just released a new book called Hunter's Desire. It is the first in 2 books, which are the dark paranormal romantic suspense LGBTQ with supernatural elements. It is set in small town Canada, and it features a physical medium in that book, and it is all about these 2 guys. They're trying to find a missing woman, and the one guy doesn't realize that he's the main subject, and they're battling their attraction, and it's a lot of fun. There is a massive rule break in it, but I fix it, so it's absolutely interesting. Yeah, and so there's that one. What else? I am super excited about this new project that I have started, and it is a Scottish Highlander series. Book 1 is going to be out this spring. I am currently working on book 1, and it should be out in the end of April, beginning of May for pre-order. It features kidnapped brides, enemies to lovers, and the first book is Callum and Elizabeth's story. They are bitter enemies. Their 2 clans have been at war for generations. And so what winds up happening is it's a kidnapped bride with a twist, because it's not the bride that gets kidnapped, it's the groom in this one. So there's a very foul rumor afloat, and Elizabeth's father is intent on reclaiming his family's honor, and sends out his clansmen to find this man who is allegedly sneaking around to see Elizabeth. And it's a foul rumor. There's no truth to it, but they don't know that. They stumble upon him, and he's by himself. They ambush him and they drag him back, and it's shotgun wedding without the shotgun. It's more of a broadsword wedding. And it's only after the fact and after he's left the Graham holding that things start to become very clear. And she's like, oh boy, because now she's in a situation where she's married to the enemy. And so they have to kind of make it work. So it's a lot of fun to write. It's not going to be quite as dark as Chains of Rome or Gladiators Promise, but it is dark. There's lots of battle scenes, and there's lots of subterfuge. And throughout book 1, we're trying to figure out who started this rumor, and the answer will surprise you. So if you would like more details, I do updates in my newsletter. You can find it on my website as well. And if you sign up for my newsletter, I do have a free book that you guys can get. So check out my website again. That's www.patriciabates.com. Sign up for the newsletter. You can get the free. It's a free historical. It's a very spicy one, but it is there for you. I am also looking for ARC readers. So if you want to be at the head of everybody else and have a chance to read my work before it goes out, yeah, you can check me out. Send me a message, send me an email. I do have on my website an ARC sign up sheet. And for those of you who are following who may not be familiar with that term, it's Advanced Reader's Copy. And I usually send those out. I try to send them out at least 4 weeks before the book is due to come out live. So if The Stake and Groom is coming out in for pre-order in May, when it goes up for pre-order is when I would actually be sending out the ARCs, because it's going live in June. And I see that my thing here is going. There we go. Oh, yay. So yeah, that's what's going on these days.
Awesome. Wow, you are a fantastic lady, Patricia. I have had a great time learning more about your books, about the wonderful things that you do to put into your writing, and how you're giving back to the author community. I'm going to have to shoot you an email and find out about that group myself, because that is super interesting. And I love it when authors, not only are they wanting to write fantastic books by putting the research in and really getting into the weeds of learning about their craft, but also giving back to the author community. Because I think out of all the communities I've been involved with throughout my however many years I've been alive, the author community is one of the friendliest and one of the ones that gives back so
Yes.
much, and I love that about the author community. So thank you for that, and thanks for
Very
coming on
welcome.
the show today. It has been
Thank
a
you.
fantastic journey, and I think that one that I think that we're going to have many more conversations with, hopefully in the near
I hope
future.
so. I hope so.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on, Patricia, guys. Don't forget to come back each week and watch us either live or on the podcast right here on Facebook. You can also ask Siri or Alexa, and I did unplug my Alexa this time, so she's not going to try and talk to me, okay, to play our latest episodes. Head to our website, catch our latest issue. Yes, that is my dogs. They decided to come and join us at the end of the show. Get the latest issue of the magazine, which came out at the beginning of January, and submissions are now open for the April issue of the Author's Porch magazine. They are due the beginning of March. March 1st, everything is due. We want to continue making authors' dreams come true by providing them a platform to shine. We will see you guys next time. If you appreciate conversations like we do and want to become a better speaker, visit our friends Brendan and Vamsi at mastertalk.ca, where they teach you how to use the power of your voice. Don't forget, stay awake with a nice cup of coffee from Third Day Coffee Seguin, the best cup of coffee on this side of heaven. That's thirddaycoffeeseguin.com. Until next time, my friends, I'm CJ. That is Patricia. Go read her books and write on. Bye, everybody. Bye, Patricia.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
The Author's Porch is a certified veteran-hosted podcast. Show your support, tune in, share, and subscribe.